Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. Joining me this evening in studio is Chris Howell, and Chris Howell is a great friend of mine. He runs a communications firm. They do both PR, digital marketing, problem solving, creativity, but he was also a broadcast personality, an MC, a speaker, an author, everything. On top of that, he runs a nonprofit. And Chris, tell me a little bit more about the nonprofit that we were talking about right before the break.
Absolutely. It's the Chris Howell Foundation, again, based here in Dallas as well. And with the Chris Howell Foundation, Ashley, I have always wanted to do something regarding HIV and AIDS. My brother passed away in 2006 due to complications of HIV and AIDS. So I always wanted to do something, but didn't really have a platform or an opportunity to do anything. But this past year, we started looking at ways where we can do something because we have a video production company. We started looking at ways where we can at least help start and getting messaging out there to make folks aware that the epidemic has not lessened any. In fact, it's even, I want to say it's worse than what it was before, but the numbers of new infection rates have not decreased.
Really?
No, not at all. And particularly in Dallas County. Dallas County has led the state of Texas in new HIV infections for the past 5 years.
Whoa.
Think about that, Dallas, Texas.
What about state-wise? In this country, what are like the three? Do you know anything about the states, about the largest growth of AIDS in the United States?
You know what? I don't know exactly what state would be the leading state. I do know that Dallas County is leading the state of Texas for the last 5 years. So our focus has been on trying to really help to decrease the number of new infection rates in Dallas County. And one of the ways we're doing that is we're actually putting out video messaging. The other thing we're doing is we're actually holding events. And in those events, we're not just having folks to come in to be tested, but we're also allowing for folks to come in and receive education. So we'll have a panel discussion, and in that panel discussion, it's typically a doctor of some sort. It's someone who's an HIV advocate who's sharing their story, and then it's typically someone who's positive, who's talking about how they are living with the effects of HIV. Because understanding what my family went through when my brother passed away with it, I want to make sure that no other family, first of all, let me back up a moment. With my brother, I didn't have the type of relationship with him that I should have had before he passed because I was ignorant. And I had kids and thought, you know what, I don't want to go around him. I don't want to contract something and then get my kids and all those type of things. Because at the time, you know, the whole myths about you can catch HIV from shaking someone's hand or drinking out of their drink and all those type of things that I was just totally ignorant on. It kept me away from him. So I want to help to educate families and folks to understand that none of those things are true, that you can have a family member who is positive and you can still love on that family member and not contract HIV. And to the person who is HIV positive, helping them to understand that they can have a whole and healthy life if, in fact, they do the things they need to do to take care of themselves. And the other thing is, again, folks who don't know their status, we're holding those Know Your Status Dallas events so folks can begin to go out, get tested, know your status, know the status of the person that you're being intimate with. Because so many times we've talked to individuals who have contracted the virus from someone who knowingly had the virus. That person knew they had it, but they didn't tell this person that they had it. For whatever reason, they didn't tell. There's a lady that we interviewed who married a gentleman. They met, they married 9 months later. On their 1-year anniversary, she got the results, test results, learning that she was HIV positive. She's now been positive for 17 years. This gentleman was positive. He knew that he was positive 14 years before he ever met her. He just never told her. He never showed any signs until after they were married. Then he became ill. She takes him to the hospital and learns at that time that he, in fact, is HIV positive.
What happened to them?
She's still living. I mean, like I said, she's been 17 years positive now. I don't know anything about him, and she doesn't know anything about him. I guess after their divorce and separation, she's not sure what happened to him. But she's still living. In fact, now she is an HIV advocate. And her testimony and her video is on our website. It's Edith Lewis, and that's the interview with Edith Lewis that's on our website. And after hearing her story, that's what actually compelled us to start the foundation, to think we really have to do more than just video messaging. We have to get out into the community to actually help spread the awareness.
I have some friends, some very close friends of mine who are HIV positive, and they've had a tough time of it, a tough road of it, and it's interesting. I mean, they're on, they take their medication and they follow their protocol, and they look fine. They look, they look totally healthy.
Right.
But you don't really think about that oftentimes, and I feel like the media and the news has been kind of downplaying that maybe.
Right.
because you don't ever hear about it.
Well, and that's the thing. Because you don't hear about it, people tend to let their guard down and they don't think about it as much. When we were getting inundated with messaging, 15 years ago, it was at the top of everyone's mind. And that's part of our job now as a foundation to really try and continue that awareness, because the news is not doing their part of making us aware of it. Organizations like ours are hoping we can keep the messaging out in our circles, then those folks will then take it to others, and we'll continue to do it maybe from a more of a grassroots standpoint.
It's interesting. I've been working with some clients recently, actually some female clients who, have been having a difficult time dating people and thinking that they're cheating and all this kind of stuff. And I said, why do you feel this way? And, they tell you all this other stuff. And then finally I said, are you having unprotected sex with them? Yeah. Well, yes. I said, so what if you started having protected sex with them? Would it scare you a lot then at that point in time that they might be seeing someone else? Well, no, not really. Don't you think that for your own health and well-being and the respect of your own body? I mean, because it kind of goes both ways.
Right.
I mean, if somebody came to me and said, oh, let's have sex, and I wasn't obviously married for, and I said, okay, and they I don't want to use protection. Well, wouldn't you start thinking, okay, don't you kind of question that? Do they do this with everybody? And the flip side is that when a woman agrees to it, or whoever agrees to it, I mean, you got to really think about that. And I think that oftentimes people live in the moment, and they don't realize, okay, I'm going to have to deal with this moment. Maybe for a very long time. Lifelong
consequences behind that one moment.
Oh.
And I guess and that's what you've just talked about there from the female perspective. We are really trying to help to really educate women even on the female condom. There are so many women, when you mention the female condom to them, they're like, I never even heard of it. It's like, really? You never even heard of it? So it's really trying to educate, and really not only educate, but empower women to understand that you can take advantage of that situation. If you're going to be going on a date with someone and there's a good chance that you're going to be intimate, you could actually place the female condom on hours before you actually become intimate.
Wow.
Yeah. And, those type of things that people just don't know. So there's so many opportunities out there to prevent you from becoming HIV positive. But again, you have to, first of all, value who you are and protect yourself. If you're going to be intimate with someone, use protection. Because like the thing you talked about a moment ago, I mean, infidelity is something that's always been there. But I mean, now it seems like with the internet and temptation and all these different dating sites and things of that nature, you have people who have multiple partners. And if you contract something, if you got multiple partners, you don't know who you got it from if you're not using protection with either of them.
Well, you're right. And there's a lot of different dating sites out there. And, one of the things that I've been talked to about a lot of, from clients who are married, when they catch the husband or they find the wife under a different name on, various Tinders and various different applications, and you don't know what's really happening.
Right.
And I if you're not willing to go to the plate and get the test done together,
right.
And y'all wait then you need to do what's second best, and that's protection. And otherwise, and I think it all comes back to, like you said, is respecting your body and respecting yourself and caring about the fact that there's a purpose and that you're supposed to carry out a purpose, and that if something happens to you before that, then you've kind of not made this reality happen.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, Ashley, one of the things, your listeners are likely adults and they understand this, what we're talking about. But the thing that's really alarming and disturbing for us is one of the fastest growing populations right now of new HIV infections is that age group of 13 to 24. So these are young people that are, having parties and things of that nature where they're engaging in unprotected sex at 13 years old and becoming HIV positive.
Wow.
So for the parents that are listening, it's important that you understand what it is your young people are engaged in and have that conversation. If you've not had that conversation of protection and all those things that go along with the consequences of unprotected sex, it's time to have that conversation. Johnny and David and our little boys and our little girls are, they may be innocent and they mean well, but they may get into a situation where the peer pressure, things of that nature overcome them. They find themselves in a compromised position and then have lifelong consequences as a result of it.
Wow. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it's happening. The numbers show it nationally.
Wow.
Ages 13 to 24, one of the fastest growing populations.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I never even thought about that. Chris, that's
Well, I had my first kid at 16.
Wow.
So I understand it. I get it. It's not hard for me to understand that because, my first sexual experience was at 9 years old. So it's not hard for me to understand that. Thankfully I didn't have any lifelong consequences as a result of it.
Right.
But, it's one of those things now where you try to help them to understand. Hopefully if they know better, they will do better.
That's so true. That is so true. When we return, we'll be talking about motivation, about direction, about what's happening with Chris here in the future, and we'll be talking more about that when we return. Stay
Absolutely.
tuned, because Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Berges. Be back this time in 2 shakes. Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. Tonight, Chris Howell has been joining me in studio, and right now, I want to talk about motivation. I think what you've been doing for, to help expound people's minds on HIV and really educate people is amazing. What gets you, though, to motivate yourself every day? What are some of the words that you say to yourself? What are some of the comments? What are some of the images and symbols that you think about when you wake up in the morning?
I think the thing that I think about first and foremost is my family. My success the success that I desire to have, it really is truly to make sure that I leave a strong and a wealth and all those things for my family. I was about to say a strong legacy, and the wealth and all those things that I desire to leave those for my family. I have a 6-year-old grandson, and I really want to make sure that he kisses my picture every day and say, "Grandpa, I really love you, and I love the things that you left for me." That's one of my dreams anyway. But that motivates me. It motivates me to get out every day to really be the best person that I can be. First of all, to represent them well, to make sure that I don't do anything that's going to embarrass them. The other thing is it motivates me to, again, try and go out there to obtain the wealth and the success and all the things that I would like to leave for them.
That's awesome.
Important. The process happens, though, because I get up every morning and I read my Bible. I read the Proverbs every day. And then the second thing is, again, it's positive messages. Before I start checking email, before I start listening or getting on Facebook, it's listening to positive messages that help me to reinforce who I am, because I believe that I am a communicator, and I believe I'm a great communicator. And I have some of those things on my mirror, actually. I have notes on my mirror. I'm a great communicator. I'm a loving husband. I'm a doting grandfather. And I'm a pillar in my community, are some of the things I have on my mirror.
Oh, I like that. I have a mantra on my mirror, too. I actually had to rewrite it the other day because I realized that my penmanship was pretty bad.
Well, mine is scribbled out. Well, I probably should have typed it, but hey, I can read it.
When you can't see your own affirmations, you're like, well, what does that mean? This doggone print. I can't even write, can't even read anything.
I'm a great talk show host. I just can't write for anything.
I'm seriously like chicken scratch. It's like, I'm good at.
The funny part is, I can see you really doing that.
I'm like, okay. Make it up as you go.
I got to come back to that one tomorrow. I don't know what I am on that one.
I'm good at everything. I am the
Except
queen
writing.
of the world. Yeah, I mean, I think about that kind of stuff, It's funny how that goes. But so let me ask you also, what are some of the things that you're thinking about doing in the future? Do you have some things that you really want to pursue? Some, like I don't like the word bucket list. I really don't like that because it has some negative connotation. Are there some things that you want to check off on the Chris Howell list here in the next year that are just really, really, you're just kind of chomping at the bit to make it happen in reality?
You know what? I really don't have a whole list of things. I mean, I guess from a professional standpoint, there are some people. I've had the opportunity to interview some wonderful people. I've interviewed Zig Ziglar, John Maxwell, T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen, some of those guys.
Me.
But you, absolutely, Ashley Burgess, you better believe it. And it's just, but there are still some people that I would like to interview. I would like to, for whatever reason here, as of late, I've really been thinking I'd like to interview Serena Williams. And the interview really wouldn't even be around tennis. I mean, it would really be about who she is as an individual. Anytime I interview somebody, I like to really learn more about who they are as an individual, because so many times from a society and a public standpoint, we think that because someone does something that is who that person is, and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it's not the case at all, actually. We want to know who they are as an individual. So she's one person I'd like to interview. In terms of things to do, I don't know. I don't know that I'm in physical shape to climb a mountain or anything of that nature, so it wouldn't be that. It may be to get out on a speedway and drive a race car or something of that nature. I'd like to do that. I drive fast.
You do?
Yeah, so I'm in practice every day when I'm on the freeway. I'm working towards it, I guess. But
awesome.
and my company, I guess the last thing would be my company. I would like to, for the next maybe over the next couple of years, I would certainly want Chris Howell Communications to be one of the top marketing and communications firms in the nation.
I love that.
That's. I mean, I'm working toward it.
Write that one on the mirror there.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely right. I will do that because I have
Yeah.
not done that. But that's a goal of mine. I really want us to be one of the top go-to companies when it comes to video production, marketing, communications plans. Certainly want to be considered in the top.
So I'm going to ask you something. I only can go so deep with certain people, so I'm going to go really ultra deep on this last question.
Okay.
Okay, in the last few years, it's something I've realized, and it took me a little while because I didn't really get it before, and I had to work at finding the relevance in my marriage, and I had to work at finding the happiness without looking outside, and I had to work at overcoming the media implications of what our life is supposed to be, and I had to work to do that. You know what I'm saying? And it was a constant work, and then it got easier and easier, and it's interesting when my eyes weren't moving around, and when I wasn't focusing on the wrong, and I mean wrong things meaning the wrong things. When I wasn't focusing on the wrong things, all of a sudden things got easier.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way? Do you feel that when you're actually doing what's right on every level, that things seem to kind of things seem to get easier? Because I think there's a lot of folks out there right now that are dealing with a negative, bad relationship. They know that they don't need to be in that relationship. They know that they're better than that. They know that they need to find themselves. There's some folks out there that might not be giving their kids enough time. Yeah. Putting them in daycare, whatever they do to try to go find a man or to try to go find a woman, whatever that is. But it's when we finally focus our values back on family and doing what's right, it seems like things kind of fall in place together.
Let me say this, and I can't say that I totally agree with what you're saying, and I'll say it this way. I used to be one who chased after this thing that we call life balance, but I'm beginning to understand that in my belief, Chris Howell's personal belief, I don't believe there is such a thing as life balance. And I'll say because in what I try to do, rather than trying to balance out everything, because like I just told you a moment ago, I am really trying to build my company. But at the same time, I'm going to leave here in just a moment, and I'm going to go and take my son to dinner because it's his birthday, and we're going to have a family dinner. But every day, I'm going to fall short somewhere. It's just a matter of what day it is, what's going on in my life at that time on where I fall short. Today's my son's birthday, so I'm not going to be in the office tonight until 10 o'clock tonight. I'm going to cut my day shorter. So I will fall short today from a business standpoint, but I will be doing what I need to do from a family standpoint tonight. Tomorrow, I will likely be in the office later because I took off earlier today. So every day, it's a balancing act to say, I'm going to fall short somewhere. Where is it will I fall short? What's the most important at this moment? So to me, that doesn't equate to a work-life balance, because when I need to dig in and really go put it all into my business to go forward, I'm going to do that. When I need to take time off to spend time with my wife, time with my family, I'm going to do that. And one's going to take away from the other. That was probably a long way to say that. Again, I think if we really get out of our head and quit trying to chase this whole balance, because I think you're setting yourself up for something that you can never really achieve, because you're a business owner. You have clients that you have needs to take care of. So sometimes you may not be able to spend as much time with your husband that week because your clients are demanding more of you. Some weeks your clients are not demanding as much, so you have the time to spend with your husband. So it goes back and forth.
And then on the flip side, then you have the spouse that's too busy working. So then the times that you actually have a little bit of time off, they're at work.
Absolutely. You know, so it's never a balance. It's you have to do what works best for you. I have the luxury of my wife who's now traveling. So she's gone 4 days a week. So I have the luxury of being able to dedicate time to the office. So that way when she's home on the weekend, then I'm putting my time back into her. So it works out that way. Everyone doesn't have that type of luxury. So if you're trying to figure out where do I put my time, it really is what's demanding the most of your time and that particular day. And what's the most, really, it's more what's important. What's the most important? And if you dedicate your time and energy to what's the most important, then you're likely going to be falling short somewhere else. So you're really out of balance.
That makes a lot of sense, because a lot of us have, we try to figure that out. We try to figure out that lifetime formula.
Yeah.
You know,
and really, there is no set formula. It's what works best for you and your spouse and your family.
One last word one last thought for our listeners, Chris.
I guess the last thought would be, live your true life purpose or perspective. Live your true life perspectives. I need to get it right there. The other P. But it really, again, you're listening to this show because Ashley does a dynamic job of bringing to you points and concepts that are really going to help you to move your life forward. She has guests that help you to do the same thing. My thing would be, again, quit comparing yourself to others. Understand where you are, the cards that you've been dealt, deal those cards, move beyond the fear, do whatever it is you've been called to do. You're perfected along the way. The final thought is, I've heard someone once say that if you're not embarrassed by your first work, then that means you've started too late. If you're not embarrassed by your first work, you've started too late. So get started. Be embarrassed by your first work. You're perfected as you go.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, Chris, I'm going to ask you one question. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Are you willing to come back to the show and be on again?
Absolutely, I am.
Okay, we have you down for that. We're gonna have you sign an affidavit on the way out. So.
Okay, we'll do.
I absolutely love that. And Chris, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And I know we've said something that's helped someone.
I know you have.
You have as well. I said we. I didn't say me.
I've tried.
No,
most definitely. I love that last too. So yeah, go out there and look at your work. And I've done that myself, and you've done that. That's great.
Yeah.
So stay true, live your true life. And remember that there is opportunity, there is motivation. It's all within you, and everything in this world is absolutely within you. Every goodness that you see is also part of you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for listening, and live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Berges. Be back this time in 3 shakes.